wondering mind will tell me how long do I have to wait? Well, can I get you now, or must I hesitate? Well, I ain't been...
Well, hello. Today we're going to, as you can see, we've got some blunt knives here, and we thought we'd have a go at getting them nice and sharp. This technique I learned from some fellows in Sydney, a company called Chef's Armoury. They've got a really nice Japanese shop in Sydney selling Japanese knives and etc. And I spent an hour or so there with the guys, and I took my methods and they showed me theirs, and I have to say that they've got it down to a fine art, although the process is very similar in a way to what you do when you sharpen plain blades or chisels. It's got some same criteria on the way through, but they certainly do a good job there. Before we start sharpening, we need to make sure that our waterstones that we use to sharpen these knives are flat, because if they're not flat, the edge that we'll get will have unevenness and that sort of thing. So we need to make sure that the the waterstones are flat. The way we do that is the simplest way, I think, is to use a lapping plate. We just use a mild steel lapping plate that you can find on our website, and I just put some wet and dry 120 sandpaper, which comes with the lapping plate, on the lapping plate. It adheres just through suction and being so flat. There we go. The first stone I'm going to use in this process is a 220 grit stone. A 220 grit stone, the grit in a 220 grit stone is 66 microns. Remembering that a micron is a thousandth of a millimetre. So this is not even a tenth of a millimetre in the grit. So I'm just flattening this stone now. Now to check it, processed before, but we put lines with a pencil across the lines like that, across the stone like that, and rub it on this flat surface thusly, and you can see the lines are coming off evenly, which is telling us all off. There's a little tiny line there in the middle, very faint. And now it's all gone. Now that stone's flat now and ready to use. So this is one of my Japanese chef's knives that I've used for years. Good quality Japanese knife. A good quality Japanese knife, the purists say, shouldn't be stainless steel. This is blue paper steel, which is that layer at the bottom there, and it's sandwiched between other layers. But that one that is used for cutting in the middle layer, which you can just see an edge along there, is not stainless steel, it's blue paper steel. So you just pick up the knife and look, as you look at it, and start, I'll just move that out of the way, and start moving it up and down just put some water in our stone, just so it flushes away the metal. Now you're going to ask what angle. The angle that most people, chefs, knife sharpeners who know what I'm talking about, would probably say 15 to 20 degrees. Now that's quite low. It's about there. Now you might find that I just put a finger or so underneath if you can just see that there, it's just about that. What's most important is that we sharpen to the edge. We'll come to that though shortly. So we start by putting our fingers close to the edge, hold the handle and just move it up and down. The push stroke away has got the most strength. The one coming back is really a return stroke. And as you do it, you move down the blade with your fingers. As you come to the end, you sort of turn it, swivel it a little bit so that the edge is parallel to what you're doing, and you sort of go around the corner. Now, what's most important is that as we do this, the steel as we sharpen it, we're pushing it around the edge of the blade, and that will create on this side a little burr. And if you've got that burr, you know that you're on the edge. Now I can feel it in the middle there, but not here and not here. So I just want to get that a bit stronger. It may be that my angle is a shade low, which would then mean I'm not on the edge. Keep going. I've just lifted my angle up a shade. Let's feel that now. That's back there now. Yes, I can feel that little burr. Now I've done that side, I'm going to do the other side. So I just turn it over, start here, and away we go again the other side. The push stroke that does the work. Come around the corner for the edge. Okay, that's got quite a nice bird all the way along from the toe of the blade to the heel. So that's our process on that stone. Now we'll move up to another stone. The next stone I'm going to use is a 1000 grit stone. The microns on these are 14.7, which means it's sort of a quarter of the size of the grits on the 1000 on the 220 stone. So let's start. Moving your fingers along so it stays flat and connected to the stone. Now we're going to turn over. I'll just check that. Yeah. Turn it over. Moving along. And just sort of follow the edge of the knife around. You want to get right to the point. See that black stuff? That's metal coming off this knife. What the water does is lubricate, of course, but it also flushes away that metal so that the stone remains clean. And I should actually wipe between those two stones so we don't transport that grit to that grit. So we've done that stone. Now I finished sharpening knives on the 5000 grit stone. Knives need to be sharp to make them safe, but they also don't really need to go up to 8,000, 12,000 grits. Some people do, but really most Japanese chef knife sharpeners will finish at 4,000 or 5,000 grit. Okay. Okay, change over. All the way through the process, what's important, every time you go to turn it the other side, just check the knife that you're getting a burr on this side. You may find that if you let the angle go down, you won't be right on the edge. You've got to keep it, maintain about 20 degrees to make sure you get that burr. The test is the burr. Okay. As you go down the grits, the burr, I can just feel it there, the burr gets smaller and smaller as the grits get finer and finer. That one's pretty good now. Now we've got a burr on one side and not the other. So it's just nice to finish that off with one stroke like this. You can change hands or do it the other way, this way. They call this cutting the water. Very romantic. But it just takes off that last bit. So that's basically the technique for sharpening waterstones, for sharpening chef's knives. There's no real difference in sharpening a pocket knife. This is a Legal, one of my old French pocket knives. There's no difference. Hold the handle in your dominant hand and just work on it. Exactly the same process, just a shorter blade. You've got to work around it so you get right to the point. You can feel a little burr there on that side. So turn it over. Fingers close to the edge. It might feel as though the finger's been close to the edge is dangerous, but you're not, because it just sits on top of the knife and works fine. You can feel the edge there. It can go through the same process as the chef's knife. You'll find some knives sharpen more easily or quicker than others. The high carbon ones, I'll show you a Japanese pocket knife in a minute, that sharpens beautifully. This particular blade's a stainless blade, which means that, which side am I up to, this one? Which means, yeah, it'll sharpen beautifully, but to me the non-stainless metals and the high speed metals and the white paper and the blue paper metals, the ones that rust, a lot of black coming off there from that little, so I've got a ding on the end of that. I think it's really important to keep knives sharp, because when they're blunt you push harder, and that's the times that you can have a problem with them. This one's, see the metal coming off. Back to the side. Yeah. I've got to say that I really like the Japanese knife, tool steels. They do sharpen well. That's much better. That's good. Just wiping off that last tiny bit of, and we're done. This Japanese, we've got these coming back in the stock. This is December in 2020, but these should be back in stock in time for Christmas. They're fantastic. I've had this one for years and years. Akuchi is the name of the, and these steels are fantastic. They just won't go through the whole process, and with a Japanese knife you can just got that little to hold it there, and which is great for sharpening because it keeps it nice and stiff. It's also great when you use it. But let me tell you, these steels really sharpen. So if you ever get concerned about angles of not working, you don't feel that, there it is, all the way through that. I can feel that burr from, not there, sorry, wrong side. Yeah, there it is. That burrs all the way along, which means I'm right on the edge. Now I'm pushing the burr around the other side. This blade was getting blunt lately, and I use it for everything here, like opening packages or carving this or this or that, or very nice tool. Yeah, there it is on the other side now. But I won't continue the whole process. But that's how I sharpen my blades, and how most of the Japanese chefs and etc. would sharpen their tools, I would think. Nothing worse than unsharp tools. Let's see how this one goes now. So I'm not putting an ounce of pressure on that now. There's the old translucent slice. That's a nice sharp knife and a nice tomato. So please, if you've got any questions about sharpening knives or sharpening anything, please send us an email or whatever you will, or give us a call. I'm happy to answer any time, any questions or whatever about sharpening stones. But it's important, as I say, get them flat. You only need to go up to 5,000 for knives, 5,000 grit. So you really could just have a 220 grit and the 5,000 grit, or a 1,000 grit and a 5,000 grit. That would certainly do the job as far as the knives concerned. Anyway, happy knife sharpening. Thank you.